So for those who aren't too familiar, in your best elevator pitch, if you can, what is Qi Gong?
I love the Qigong elevator pitch, and I have to do it frequently. But Qi Gong really is less stress, more energy. That's how I describe it for modern life folks. Qigong is an ancient practice, but what I like to do is make it relevant for modern life. Lowering stress, clearing pain, helping people sleep better, relaxation, getting into flow state. These are all wonderful things that Qigong can help with. Qi means energy, and Gong means work. So it is an ancient form of energy work.
Well, in actual practice then, what does it look like? For people who haven't seen it, is it, something that resembles a meditation? Is it something that resembles a martial art? What would you say it looks like in practice to those who haven't seen it with their own eyes?
Yeah, if meditation and martial arts had a baby, it would be Qigong. So Qigong is a little bit like Tai Chi. There's some slow flowing movements for energy cultivation and deep relaxation. There's also gentle stretching, a little bit like yoga. There is some early on conditioning and what I call energy enlivening exercises. So it boosts up your energy. And then there's these beautiful slow flowing movements that give you a meditation-like sensation, as well as energy cultivation. So for some people to sit down and meditate and close their eyes and quiet their mind is a little bit difficult and challenging. So doing meditation while in movement brings you into this flow state, but it also gives you something to do and gives the mind something to focus on, so we truly become rooted in the present moment.
And Qigong comes from Taoism, is it? What's the sort of philosophy behind it?
Well, it originated by mirroring the movements of nature. So these ancient men and women watched the way a tree moved in the wind, or the way ocean waves unfold onto the shore. Animal movements is also part of Qigong. So they watched how nature moved with effortless power, and they started to mirror those movements in their bodies as a way to commune, connect with, and to really heighten that natural energy within ourselves. So that was some of the original practices of Qigong, looking at nature. There was also, Qigong had its origins in like shamanistic practices, where the shaman would invoke forces of nature. But unlike other shamanistic practices in ancient China, what they did was they made it accessible for everybody. So it wasn't just for the shamans to commune with the universe and the divine. It was for everybody to participate. And that's why it became a practice that everybody can do, and often will do out in nature, let's say in the morning. You don't have to go outside to do Qigong. In fact, millions of people around the world do Qigong inside and just practice it in the comfort of their own homes. But it is a wonderful thing to just step outside and remember that we are part of nature, that we are connected to nature. And when we disconnect from nature, lots of things tend to go wrong in our human physiology. And that's why you can see an emergence of practices like grounding, and forest bathing and all these things, because nature is healing. And the ancient practitioners recognized that and started to find ways to connect with that natural energy within themselves and nature all around them.
So when we start looking into some of the exercises and techniques, I think if anyone out there, I think your YouTube channel is a great example of this, is that this Qigong can be used for so many things. I mean, there's videos on your channel dedicated to exercises for anti-aging, to longevity, to things like hearing, to eyesight, to heart health. There's so many different topics you cover through your exercises. But for someone out there right now who may be listening to this, who's unconvinced by these practices, these techniques, and they said, Lee, what is one technique or exercise that you would suggest me to do as someone who's unconvinced by this, where I would be most likely to feel a benefit or some sort of result? What exercise would you encourage that person to try?
I love this exercise. It's a shaking exercise. Think of an Olympic athlete before an event, what do? They shake their body. They take some deep breaths as a way to discharge stress, anxiety, and nervous tension. I love this exercise because it's very intuitive. Athletes use it, 3-year-olds use it when they get upset. Shaking is one of the best ways to reset the nervous system or discharge nervous energy. And it's also a wonderful energy enlivening exercise. So in Qigong, this shaking exercise, we would say, really helps to activate internal energy. And if folks want to try a version of it right now, you can do it. And I'll kind of guide you through how to do that practice. But you're going to take your hands down to your sides and just shake your hands out like you're an athlete before an event. And if you take a few deep breaths in through the nose and blow it out through your mouth while you're kind of shaking your hands out. I don't know if people can see. Don't do this while you're driving, folks. But if you're sitting or standing, just shake the hands out at your sides. Big deep breath in through the nose and a long exhale out through the mouth. And you'll feel after about 30 seconds of doing this, your energy activated in your hands. So now go ahead and stop, put your hands in your lap, and you'll feel a little tingling, a little buzzing, a little activation of your internal energy. And that energy is what was known as Qi, your life force energy. It's a term that's thousands of years old. And, people are talking about energy work and breath work and all these kinds of things. And they all had their origin in either a yoga practice from India or a Qigong practice from ancient China. And it's all about how do we get this energy circulating and flowing and not stuck, blocked, or stagnant. And shaking is a very quick way to get that energy circulating and flowing.
And when we use a term like energy, again, for people who aren't familiar with this, let's say someone, like you mentioned there, the energy flowing around the body as opposed to, someone who's not in that state. What physical difference, how can you feel that that's working? How can you feel that energy's flowing? What does that feel like?
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think we all intuitively understand energy because I've done experiments where I'm just like, hey, how's your energy today? To people, all different kinds of people. And people always answer with like, oh, I'm pretty good, or I feel a little low, or yeah, I'm really excited about X, Y, or Z. In terms of energy and how we would categorize it, think about it in terms of quantity, like how much energy do you actually have? Do you feel energized? Do you feel fatigued? And also think about it in terms of quality. What's the quality of that energy? Because sometimes we have a lot of energy, but it's a lot of agitated energy. Sometimes we have a lot of energy, but it's angry energy, right? Sometimes we're depleted of energy and we feel depressed. Right? So quantity, how much energy do you have? Then the quality, what is it? Is it a lot of energy and I feel happy, I feel inspired, I feel excited? That's a lot of, the quality is positive, right? Or I feel low energy, but I feel content, I feel okay. Or is it I'm feeling depressed? So we want to work on those two aspects. And that's how Qigong really helps to create a healing effect in the mind and the body. Like you said, you mentioned my YouTube channel, and I have all kinds of routines based on different ailments. And I do workshops on this all the time. Like I did Qigong for depression. I did Qigong for anxiety, Qigong for fatigue, Qigong for stress, Qigong for neck pain. Whatever it is, we can design a routine to help focus energy in that particular area of the mind-body system and create balance and harmony there. You see, the thing is, naturally, your body wants to find harmony and equilibrium. There's a powerful healing force within us all, but usually we don't know how to direct that force and create that healing within us because often we're a bit hijacked. We're stressed out, we're overwhelmed, we got too much on our plates, and we don't know what to do. So we often are wired and tired, right? We don't have enough energy during the day, but then we go lie down to go to sleep and our mind is overly active and we have a hard time resting. So this harmony and balance is created when we can have a lot of energy during the day and deep relaxation in the evening so that we rest really well.
When we were listing off some of the practices and exercises and ailments there, I could almost hear our audience screaming out for me to ask this next question, because this is a topic that I know our audience love to hear about through previous guests we've had on, Andrew Huberman, David Sinclair, around longevity and reversing aging. In terms of Qigong and some of the exercises that are in relation to longevity and anti-aging, what does that look like in practice, and what is the sort of theory behind that one?
Qigong was called the art of preventing disease and prolonging life. And this is the original practice of Qigong. For thousands of years, people have used Qigong exercises to stay healthy. Most people don't know this, but Qigong is part of the Chinese medical system. There was 5 branches that they used to prevent disease and prolong life. One was nutrition. The other was massage therapy. And then we have acupuncture, herbal medicine, and Qigong. And Qigong and nutrition are really the things that you could do for yourself. Acupuncture and herbal medicine usually prescribed or practiced on you by a medical professional. And so in Chinese medicine, the way the medicine actually worked was preventatively. So you would come to your acupuncturist, your Chinese medical doctor, and say, "Hey, doctor, keep me healthy." And you would pay them, let's say like a monthly fee, go do your Qigong classes, your exercises, get your herbal prescriptions. And as soon as you got sick, you stopped paying, because the whole goal of the medicine was health care, not sick care. So as soon as you had a problem, you're like, "Hey, doctor, I have a headache. Doctor, I have neck pain. Doctor, I have asthma." They're like, "Okay, don't pay me until we get you better and on track." So I think this is very relevant, because now in Western medicine, nobody gets paid unless people are sick. And we have normalized sickness because we often will just wait until we get sick to tend to our health. And in Chinese medicine, they say, don't dig your well when you're dying of thirst. And this is related to healthcare. Don't wait till you're sick before you dig that well of health and longevity. So this is a big movement now where, biohacking and, supplements and exercise, all of these things can play a big role in preventative health. But back then, this was part of the medicine and infused into the way of life, which it hasn't crossed over in our model in a big way. We as individuals have to take charge of our own health and prevention, because established medicine will not do that. They thrive on people getting sick. And it is a big, huge business. And if nobody's getting sick, nobody's getting paid. And so we as individuals need to take charge of our own health and wellness, both for health span, staying healthy as we age, and lifespan.
And I think the actual G side of it, the energy side of it, is one thing. But I assume that, I would gather that there's so many different sort of byproducts of doing these exercises. I guess just by moving, that's inevitably good for you, right? That's inevitably good for your flexibility, your stabilization, just general exercise. There's so many sort of byproducts that come off this. But in terms of the actual practice itself and the G and the energy, in terms of something like longevity, is that something that's affected by all types of Qigong, or there's certain exercises, certain practices, certain techniques that are more geared toward that goal?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's a great question, because it's both, because all kinds of movement is good for longevity. In fact, when we sit too long and don't move in a variety of different ways, this creates stagnation of energy and problems in the body. So unfortunately, in the Western modern world, people are sitting more now than ever before. So we sit all day at work. We sit when we come home and have dinner, then we sit and watch TV, and we're very sedentary. Even if you go out for your morning jog, but then sit 10 hours the rest of the day, it still will create stagnation of energy. And the research is in, because there's a really wonderful new research about how sitting is as bad for you as smoking. So that's what the article is called, "Sitting is the New Smoking." So
Yeah.
sitting too long creates this stagnation, and this has been talked about for thousands of years in the Qigong world. And variety of movement is also wonderful in the latest research. The more different kinds of movements that you do, it helps your telomeres, meaning those markers in our genetic expression that affect longevity are influenced by variety of movement. Just like variety of nutrition and getting enough nutrients in our body, variety of movement is very, very important. So now, in terms of longevity, there's key energy systems in Qigong that can really help. One, Qigong would say that the kidney energy system is very important for longevity. So you support the kidneys and the kidney energy. It's not, when we take an organ in Chinese medicine, we don't just mean the physiological organ. We mean this whole interconnected energy system. And so the kidneys control the endocrine system. So anything we can do to balance our hormones, our endocrine system, is going to be very helpful for longevity. So movement, variety of movement, and then specifically we would do a few things to what was known in Chinese medicine, tonify the kidneys.
Wow. And so I've kind of heard of practices like this having effects on things like longevity and overall health, but I haven't really come across in the past, what you mentioned earlier when you said targeting certain ailments like hearing, eyesight. Now, when it comes to those exercises and those videos that we referenced earlier, is that kind of the same as as you mentioned with the hands earlier, just drawing energy to that part of the body, or does it go a little bit deeper than that?
It goes deeper than that, because we can look at the different energy systems behind, let's say, the eyes or the ears. And interestingly enough, the kidneys, we were just talking about them, are related to the sense organ of the ears and hearing. So when we say, okay, let's do a practice that will benefit the ears, we might again target the kidneys, because you can see as hormones decline, as we age, hormones shift, and often people start to lose their ability to hear clearly. And so as you support the kidneys, the hearing improves, and we can do that with other sensory organs too. Like, for example, the eyes are related to the liver. In Chinese medicine, they see these connections. It's more about relationships. In Western medicine, it's really about isolation. So if you have an eye problem, you're not going to go talk to your psychologist about what you're not seeing clearly in your life. Where in Chinese medicine, we would look at inner vision as well as outer vision. We would look about our outlook on life. We would look about how we're seeing things. We can connect things emotionally. How stressed out are you? Will affect our senses and our eyesight. How much alcohol are we drinking? Because when we drink alcohol, it affects the liver, and the liver is an opening to the eyes. That's why when people drink a lot, their eyes turn red. And so you'll see all these different connections in, let's say, a Chinese medicine aspect, because it's holistic, meaning that we're looking at the wholeness of yourself, not just the isolation. So, the research in the West is there. The practice hasn't caught up to it, though. We know that emotional stress creates big problems in our physiology, but your psychologist and your doctor aren't in communication, and we're not working on prevention, and we don't understand how movement and breathing and meditation really creates balance in our emotions, which creates then a positive healing effect in our bodies. And so how we think, how we feel has big influence on our physiology. And so when there's a problem in the body, we don't just look at trying to fix the one symptom. We're going to look at the root cause of the problem and try to untangle it. So usually when you do some acupuncture your Qigong practice. I hear this over and over again where people come in and they say, you know what, Lee, I got neck pain. I give them a routine to help improve their circulation in their neck. And they tell me, oh man, my neck pain's a whole lot better, but I'm also sleeping better and I have more energy during the day. So the side effects of this kind of medicine are positive. It's this cascade of positive side effects. It's not like those pharmaceutical commercials that you hear where, somebody's taking a medication for depression and it makes their hair fall out and it makes their eyeballs glow green and all kinds of negative side effects. And so that's what I love about this medicine. You come in for one thing and you get treated, but it has these other ripple effects that create a positive healing in other aspects of your life.
It's really this sort of really specific treatment, this specific ailments that really interest me. So we were talking about the example we gave was maybe the eyes or the hearing, two things that people tend to lose as they age.
Yeah.
You gave us one earlier with the hands. Is there sort of one exercise you could sort of point to or demonstrate that would go some way to benefit in your eyesight or your hearing that you can share with us?
And it's interesting because we did this Qigong for Healthy Eyes workshop. And I do these condition-specific topics all the time. I usually just take a 3-hour block on a weekend and we focus on a topic. And Qigong for Healthy Eyes was one of our most popular workshops. And we were just like, oh, who knew? Because we did Qigong for, insomnia, Qigong for depression, Qigong for stress. But Qigong for Healthy Eyes was even more popular because people really wanted those specific things to do for an ailment. And what we did was we did pressure points. You can do pressure points around the eyes. So with your middle finger touching just the outer portion of the eye, you make little circles there. You can make little circles right below the eyes, right over the eyebrows, and you bring a lot of circulation to the eyes through acupressure. Then we could do eye exercises themselves, which is wonderful. Like I love this exercise where you make a big circle with your eyes, looking in a big circle. And what happens usually when you're circling the eyes, you'll notice that the eyes skip over one little area. Let's say the eyes skip over the right upper corner. So what you do is you go back to that upper right corner and you go back and forth around that upper corner to integrate where the muscles maybe are weak or maybe where there's a lack of connection in the nervous system. And this will strengthen the eye. So big circles with the eyes all the way around one way and then the other, finding little areas where the eyes skip and kind of like a paintbrush stroke going back over them. And then, of course, we do a whole Qigong routine to strengthen the liver and the internal energy. We do a little bit of psychology around vision, some meditation, some healing work, and there's the workshop.
Amazing. Well, thank you very much for that. I'm sure everyone was following along at home and their eyes were swiveling around their head.
Yeah. And people go, what the heck are you doing if they saw you doing
yeah, they walked in and you were just, yeah. That's amazing. So if we sort of transition from these exercises to a lot of stuff you've talked about in your new book, this Ready, Set, Slow consists of slow body, slow mind, slow mind, slow body, slow relationships. Mm-hmm. Now, I imagine for the last two to work, you really need the first one to work. Is that the case?
Well, you know what? You can find entry points into this practice on many different on-ramps. Think of the energy work, system. There's many on-ramps like a freeway. Do you want to get in because you want to do some energy cultivation? You can do slow body practices like Qigong or Tai Chi. You could do slow mind practices like meditation and mindfulness. But what I like to do in this book is make these techniques really accessible to people. How can I just integrate it into things I'm already doing in my life? For example, everybody's breathing, right? How's your breathing today, folks? And just notice if you can just check in with your breathing and notice if it's slow, if it's fast, if it's up in your chest, if it's down in your belly. If you slow down your breath, so this, for example, is a slow body technique. If you slow down your breath, you're going to help to slow down your mind. So go ahead and take a 5-second inhale. and a 5-second exhale. And what you'll notice is automatically, even with one breath, your body just starts to relax a little bit more. As your body relaxes, your mind relaxes. So slow down the breath, you slow down the mind. And this is extremely helpful when we're in a mentally charged or mental stress kind of space. We're getting a lot of worries, a lot of repetitive thoughts. Just slow down your breathing and then just follow the breath as it comes in through the nose and out through the nose as a mindfulness technique. And all of a sudden the nervous system calms down and relaxes. The mind follows and becomes calmer. We start to feel that we're in a more peaceful state. So 3 or 4 times during the day, just have a little breathing break where for 1 minute, you're going to take slow breaths. I recommend 5-second inhales, 5-second exhales. Do that for 1 minute, like even while you're working, just take a little break. I'm going to take a little breathing break, 1 or 2 minutes, 5-second inhales and exhales, and you've calmed and cut the pattern of stress, worry, and anxiety just by slowing down the breath. So there's lots of little techniques throughout the book on how to integrate slow techniques into your life. The funny thing is that by going slow, the counterintuitive thing is that you become more productive. You get more done by slowing down than you do when you're in a rush or in a hurry. And you get more moments, more elevated moments throughout your day where you actually feel really good. You feel the way you want to feel, because nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, today I want to feel depressed, stressed out, in pain, and stagnated. Most people want to feel relaxed, at peace, joyful, excited, or inspired about their life, but we don't know how to go about doing that. And slowing down is key to crafting and creating the energy within yourself that you want to move out and move forward into your life with.
That's interesting. That was going to actually be my next question, because obviously we live in a very fast-paced world. Opportunities pass us by very quickly. We feel this pressure to make a change or make a decision right now. You know, if I don't act now, then I'm going to lose this opportunity forever. I've got this sudden burst of, opportunism. I need to take it now. But are we at risk at all? If we're living a slow life, are we at any danger of missing out on opportunities that may pass us by because we're living slow?
Right. And that's a great question. You know, it's not that we're always going slow. It's just that slow is a technique to have in your toolbox to help you live your best life. And sometimes slowing down will help us to get clear, to prioritize, so that we're not just rushing around doing a whole bunch of things that scatter our energy and don't help us to keep our energy focused in the direction that we want it to go. So, you know, when we talk about flow state and let's say more advanced slow techniques, it's that you go quickly, but within yourself, you're not in this rushed mindset. And this happens with athletes all the time, whether it's, extreme athletes like big wave surfers, rock climbers, or, the more traditional athletes, basketball, soccer. They all talk about when they're in the zone, when they're in flow state, it feels like everything slows down. You know, I live right here in one of the best surf spots in California, and I interviewed surfers about flow state and slowing down. And what they often will talk about is when they're in the zone and on the face of the wave, they might be going 30 or 40 miles an hour down the face of a wave, but it feels like they're going, like everything's in slow motion. And basketball players, soccer players talk about that. It feels like things are in slow motion. Your vision expands. You know where players are without even having to see them. And you have this heightened awareness. So slowness is a sign of flow state. And what we do in, let's say, Qigong practice is you train it very directly. You don't have to go be a big wave surfer or climb the face of a Yosemite rock climbing wall. You slow your body down, you slow down your breath, and all of a sudden you start to cultivate energy, get yourself into flow state. And then you move at the same pace you would go throughout your life, even if you go quickly, but you're in this calm, relaxed space within yourself. And that happens, flow state shouldn't be for extreme athletes, performers, actors. It should be for all of us. I, as a parent, I have 4 daughters. I feel like I need to get in flow state just to get the kids fed, out the door to school on time without any fighting. That kind of thing is like, we want to be in flow state. And at the end of that, you're just like, wow, yes, we did it. Everybody's out the door. Everybody's happy. Everybody's got a lunch. Nobody was fighting. There was no stress. And you were like, well, how did I pull that off? Well, I got into a state that helped me. Now we can do that whether you're answering emails, whether you're parenting, whether you're working on a book, whether you're podcasting. All of those things you bring your best energy forward when you are in that flow state, and slowing down at strategic moments through the day can get you there.
Yeah, and I can absolutely echo that, because as you were saying that, then I was thinking back to, so I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and in the gym, especially during, say, the sparring sessions we have, when I'm watching people spar, what I tend to look at the best guys in the gym and try and work out what they're doing, right? And all these guys seem to be the ones who, they could be in a terrible position, but they look so calm. They look like they're going for a walk through the park, not someone trying to choke them out. And you see the guys who end up getting beat or submitted are the guys that when they're in an advantageous position, they rush in to try and get a choke, or they rush in to try and get an armbar. But the better guys, the guys that actually end up winning, are the guys that they sit back in position. It's like they've got all the time in the world, and then they seem to, because they relax, they're slow, they're spotting opportunities that they probably otherwise would have missed if they're rushing around and panicking. So that reflects a lot of what you're telling me there.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just reading an article. It was about fitness, and they were talking about slow weightlifting. Now, when you lift weights slowly, you don't have to do as many reps. You don't have to stay in the gym as long. So I was like, yes, this is kind of showcasing what slowing down does. You slow down, you bring your muscles to fatigue. When you're lifting, you do it slowly. You only have to do 1 or 2 sets as opposed to 5 sets. And you only have to do it twice a week as opposed to 4 times a week. And you build the same amount or a similar amount of muscle density and muscle mass by just slowing down. Now, when you slow down, you lift lighter weights so you don't hurt your joints. So there's all these benefits. And I was like, yes, this is exactly showcasing the benefits of slowing down. You don't have to do it as long, so you actually save time, and you get better results because you don't injure yourself. It's easier, and it's more mindful. And so there's a lot of things that you can do that way, that when you slow down, you're going to get benefits. For example, also eating. When you slow down, when you're eating your food, your metabolism gets stronger because digestion starts in the mouth. Yeah. You chew your food more, you slow down. Why are we eating food? We're eating food for energy and also for taste. So you get more enjoyment out of your food. You get more energy from the food because we're not hurrying or rushing through it. And your body's not going to say, okay, we're going fast. Quickness is a sign of stress. So physiologically, when we're stressed out, your body is in fight or flight. When you're relaxed, you're in rest and digest.
Yeah.
So with eating, slowing down, your nervous system's more balanced. You're going to turn food into energy as opposed to storing it as fat. And you're going to get more enjoyment from your meal because you're slowing down and actually enjoying the whole process.
I think that everyone is probably in agreement with slow mind, slow body, these benefits. Now, one I haven't heard of before, so this is what really intrigued me about your book, is the idea of slow relationships. Now, what does that look like in practice? What are we talking about there?
Right, and we can take this slow principle and bring it into relationships. Now, whether it's conversation, like somebody's like having an altercation, they're in a confrontation. If you can slow everything down, and take the urgency out. Often when we're in a heated discussion, let's say with our intimate partner, we often get very defensive. We often get rushed. We often want to make our point right away. If both people can slow everything down, even, hey, I notice that we're getting agitated. Let's just take 5 minutes to just not talk for a minute, go take a walk, go do something else. Feel when you become more calm and then re-engage in the conversation, you're going to have a much better result. Because often the urgency around making your point or being defensive, or we feel triggered in some way, we all will start to say things we actually don't mean as a way to hurt somebody else's feelings because they've hurt our feelings. And so usually there's an escalation. If you just slow everything down, put some space in those conversations, you're going to get a much better result, even if we're communicating in pretty much the same way. So slowing down in confrontation is a great way to not escalate problems. Now, when we talk about intimacy and sexuality, when you slow down, you heighten energy. So the practice of going slow, even through like a sexual experience, and not just rushing to the finish line, can really heighten energy, because usually when people are being intimate, they want to exchange energy. It's not always to procreate. Most of the time, 98% of the time, we're not trying to have a baby, we're trying to connect. And connection and intimacy happen when we slow down. If we slow everything down, we can really bring the energy up. And so that's the practice of Qigong in relationships.
Yeah, and when I was having a look online, following up on some of this stuff like slow intimacy, I saw that this is actually a thing in Taoism where they say that intimacy has its own energy.
Yeah, it does. And really, it's about exchanging yin and yang, because we all have that energy within us, and we're looking for connections and how to share heart energy. Heart energy and sexual energy are some of the most powerful energies that we as human beings feel and are driven by. How do we find more love? How do we find more blissful, orgasmic energy? And that doesn't just mean, in a sexual way, but that's what we're seeking. That's what gets activated. Let's say in our music, we see people listen to music, and, oh man, they start to feel better emotionally. Something gets awakened in our heart center. So it's, love and sexual energy are what we're seeking in different ways, whether it's entertainment, whether it's reading a book, listening to music, all those kinds of things are activated in us as human beings, and especially in our intimate partnerships. So if we can find more joy, more bliss, more connection in those intimate partnerships, we just feel happier in general in our lives. And slowing down can be a great way to connect more deeply and more fully with our partners. And this, when I was in my early 20s, I was hired by a Qigong master to come write his books for him. I was his ghostwriter. And he gave me a book. One of the first books I worked on was called Sexual Reflexology. And so I was like, interesting. What is this all about? And he was talking about some of these slow techniques, how to share and exchange energy. And we were talking about medicine before, but in the ancient practices of Taoism, you would go to your, let's say, Chinese medicine doctor and say, hey, I have asthma. And he might prescribe that you have sex with your partner in certain positions to direct energy to particular areas of your body. And so this was healing through pleasure, it was called. And unfortunately in the West, most of our healing is done through pain, whether it's surgery or taking medications that have side effects, this, that, and the other thing. This was healing through pleasure. And I was like, hey, you know what? If we all went to the doctor and he was like, okay, guys, you're going to have sex, 6 times a week in this position, that position, that position, maybe medicine would be a whole lot more popular.
I'm sure it would. I'm sure it would.
Yeah.
Wow. It's something I'd not heard of until I read the book, and then I Googled it, as I said, and I thought, wow, this actually has, legs. Like historically, this has been something that's been talked about for many, many, many years.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. And it's about hey, how do we apply these ancient techniques to modern life? You know,
Mm.
like how do we and that's been my passion for like some 30 years, is how do we take these techniques that have been around for thousands of years and helping people feel more connected to each other, more connected to nature, so that we don't destroy the world around us, because we recognize that we are the world. We are the
Mm.
world around us. Nature's our extended body. Without nature, we don't exist. And so by doing energy work and slowing down, we really see things more clearly, and what is our priorities,
Mm.
and when you slow down, you think, okay, it's to connect to the people I love. It's to really be in the moment, or to have some moments of joy each and every day, and to feel connected to this beautiful planet that we're on.
I think that a lot of people have their own entry point into this topic, and breath work specifically, and someone who brought them into it. For me, it was when I interviewed James Nestor for the first
Mm,
time, and I read his book. I think it's up there actually, Breath,
yeah.
and that sort of brought me in, and it's taken this topic to the mainstream. Someone like James Nestor, how was someone like his work? Because I know you reference him in the book a couple of times.
Yeah.
How has he had an influence on your work?
Yeah, big time. And, we've been collaborating for some years. He always has me as a guest in his workshops. And I interviewed him because I created a documentary. It's a docu-series called The Superhuman Experience. And I interviewed James for that, and we became great friends. So yeah, I quote him. He's one of our testimonials, and he gave me a great testimonial on the cover of the book. And yeah, his book has been a profound influence because of all the Western research on
Yeah.
breath. And I always thought, there's so much written about diet and bringing in food as energy, and there's so little written about bringing in breath as energy. And breath is so important. Like slow breathing can have tremendous impact on our physiological health. Something as simple as just that breathing technique that I showed you all earlier, the 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale, can really help to create health, wellness, and healing. And it's so simple. And breathing is something that we're all doing each and every day. We take 20,000 breaths a day, but not all breaths are equal. Meaning, when you're breathing shallow and short in and out through your mouth, you're over breathing. And over breathing is very similar to overeating. It is
Mm.
not good for you. So slowing down the breath is a way to really enhance your energy and boost your overall wellness.
Yeah. I mean, breathing is the very first thing we do, and probably, well, definitely the very last thing we'll do.
Yep.
So it's definitely important to look at. And one other person you talk about in the book that you met and had an effect on your approach to breath work was the Iceman, Wim Hof.
Yeah.
What was that like, sort of meeting him, and what did you take away from him? What did you learn from him?
Wow, that breath work is truly powerful in very demonstrative ways.
Mm.
Whether you like go sit in an ice bath, or whether you're, running a marathon, getting your breath in order is super important. I mean, the studies on Wim Hof have been well documented, and I love just how doing the breath work, how it boosts your immune system. And, he was injected with, certain bacteria, and his breath work helped to just, the researchers were like, why isn't this guy getting sick when we inject him with, infectious bacteria? And they thought, well, maybe he's an anomaly. So they did the injection on a bunch of his students, and all had the same results. And it shows that when the body is well energized, when the body is well regulated, your immune system is much stronger. And so breath work is one of the most powerful ways to strengthen the immune system. And that's why I just love it so much. It's so simple, yet it's profound. It's powerful. It's something we're doing all the time, and we just can improve upon it.
Mm. And very similar to what I said about James Nestor when he sort of helped bring this into the mainstream. I think the first time I thought, wow, this guy Wim Hof is having a real big effect on the mainstream now is here in the UK we have the BBC. It's the sort of staple television,
Yeah.
and they gave Wim Hof his own series on BBC, and I thought that's a big turning point in bringing this stuff to the mainstream and the everyday person, and sort of, the sort of establishment sort of letting in that letting in that approach to health. So do you think that going forward now, and you must experience this firsthand, do you think we're heading down a road where things like breath work, things like, your approach are going to become, more and more leaked into the mainstream and more accepted by, the general population?
Mm. Having done this kind of work for 30 plus years, I've just seen the transformation, where all of a sudden yoga was accepted into the mainstream, and mindfulness, and now breath work, and biohacking. The reason is because it works. So I think definitely it's going to become more and more mainstream because it works so very well. And when you try it, you feel in and through yourself the power of these techniques working. And I think people are dismayed by where Western medicine falls short. I think, where technology falls short, because let's face it, everybody has smartphones, and we think, man, if I just get the right app, if I just use this thing in the right way, I'm going to have no more stress, and I won't be as busy or as hurried or as rushed. I'll be more efficient. And technology hasn't given us that slowness that we desire, that feeling of, let's say, being on vacation, even though we're in everyday life. How can I have a little mini vacation each and every day? And the slowing down techniques give us that, where we get a reset, we get a restructuring, a reprioritization, and a feeling of being calm and relaxed each and every day, which is so important to our health and longevity.
I think you touched on a really important point there. And it's specifically the example of mindfulness. And this is why I'll never sort of shut my mind off to anything that's presented to me like this, something that's new to me, because I remember going to my GP a couple of years ago. It was around anxiety, and my doctor was generally prescribing me mindfulness. They were saying, here's a very popular app that I won't name. Go and check that out. And that's come from a GP or, a therapist gave me a meditation CD. And I remember thinking at the time, I wonder how long this has been a thing. And, you start looking up online, and, 10 years ago, doctors, they would have laughed at, a suggestion like mindfulness or prescribing meditation or these types of practices. And 10 years later, they're prescribing it to you as the first course of action. So that always encourages me to not shut my mind off to this stuff and think, maybe 10 years down the line, we're having this conversation again, and we're saying, can you remember when people used to laugh at this stuff?
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. And I used to get so many referrals by a doctor. I'm also an acupuncturist. So I had a clinic, and this doctor's wife brought him in because he had shingles, and he was in tremendous pain, and medication wasn't working. She said, just come get some acupuncture with Lee. So he comes in, and I take him back to the treatment room. He's like, just so you know, I don't believe in any of this stuff. It's just not part of my world. But my wife is nagging me so much. I'm just doing it for her. So do whatever you have to do. But I know it's not going to work. So I put the needles in. I come back in the room. He's sound asleep. He's just so relaxed. I take all the needles out. He comes back in the next week, and he says, let Lee, just so you know, I don't believe in any of this stuff, but it's the only thing that's working. So I was like, it's hard to break a mindset. It's hard to break out of a particular paradigm that we're in, even though there's lots of evidence on the contrary, both subjectively because we feel better, or objectively because the research is out. It is still hard to get people to take action on it. And so that's why, a book like Ready, Set, Slow, it's really easy to take action on and try simple things like each and every day.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and absolutely, you give so many little exercises throughout the book and that are accessible for people to try as they read in. And in that vein, now obviously to start winding down this conversation and winding down my night really, because it's the evening here in the UK. It won't be long before I'm trying to settle down for bed. I wonder if there's a sort of exercise or a breathwork exercise that you could give us now. That's maybe, I don't know, a minute, 2 minutes. Um,
Hmm.
to sort of bring around relaxation. But say we're looking for a good night's sleep then, and we
Yeah.
want to try and bring that energy and sort of relax. What is one exercise you could maybe talk us through?
That sounds wonderful. Let me show you an exercise called pulling down the sky. And basically, what this helps to do is take energy out of the head and bring it down into the body so that when you sleep, your mind isn't overly active. And it works so wonderfully well for sleep, or just works wonderfully well for when you come home from work and you don't want to bring work into your home life, just those transitional times. So, what you do is you bring the hands up over the head as you inhale, and you exhale, you bring the hands down with the palms face down. So you make this kind of big circular motion. And if you can't do it with the hands, but say you're driving or something, just do the breathing, the slow, deep breathing. But this big circle, you inhale up and you exhale down. Now, if you want to add a little something to it, this is one of the healing sounds that we teach in Qigong, and it's for sleep. And it is called the triple warmer sound. Triple warmer means to balance the energy of the head, the heart, and the belly. And the recognition is that cold has a tendency to sink and heat has a tendency to rise. And so if heat rises too much, we get overactivity in the head, we get depletion of energy in the body. So triple warmer really signifies balance. So the sound as you're making this movement is H-E-E-E. So you inhale up and you big deep breath through the nose, and then you make that sound as you come down. You do it for 2 minutes before going to sleep or anytime, and it'll calm your mind tremendously. It works incredibly well. Try it, guys. You know, be brave enough to be a little weird.
I love it. Amazing. Well, I'll be trying that one out probably 2 hours from now as I'm trying to get to sleep. So thank you so much for that. I
Let
really
me know how it
appreciate it.
works.
And I know everyone will love following along at home. And yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Lee. So the very last question I have for you before we let these guys know where they can find you, where they can find the book is, and I ask this to every single person that comes on the show, but for Lee Holden right now, what makes life worth living?
Uh, Nature, my children, just the absolute excitement about creating shift in people's consciousness about who they are and what their potential is.
Well, I certainly think you've done a great job of that today. Lee, thank you so much for joining me on the show. For everyone who's listening or watching right now, where's the best place for them to find you on social media, maybe your website, and where can they check out Ready, Set, Slow? Where can they buy the book?
Fantastic. Yeah, Holden Chi Gong is my website. The hardest part about Qigong is how to spell it.
Yes,
So,
I found that out the hard way.
yeah, it's Qigong, QI. So, holdenqigong.com. And then on all the social media platforms, it's Holden Qigong Official, whether it's YouTube or Instagram. And then the book, I think in the UK, the book is just called Slow in the UK, and then here in America, Ready, Set, Slow. So I think there's a couple versions out, and you can find that at all the major book outlets. And yeah, check out the book, folks. Come see me on my website. We have all kinds of free material. We have a 30-day challenge. I have a subscription where people can just take weekly classes with me and all those condition-specific things, just how to feel better and more energized in your life.
Perfect. Well, I will make sure I link all that below for everyone to follow you and check out the book and your website. All that'll be linked in the description below. So anyone who's watching or listening right now, just click below and you'll find those links. Lee, thank you so much for today. It's been an absolute pleasure, my friend. And I hope we get to do this again sometime soon.
Yes, let's do. Thanks so much. What a great interview.